Hey, welcome back. Today, let's talk about arming teachers and defense of schools in the wake of the school shooting. So obviously, since the Texas school shooting, there has been a lot of talk of what do we do now? God, and it's all over the spectrum, anywhere from take all your guns away to give the teachers machine guns and AT-4s and grenades. It's everything in between, right? Let's just think of a few things, right? So, when the Oklahoma City bombing happened, what did they do after that? They plussed up security at government buildings, right? After 9/11 happened, what did they do after that? They plussed up security at airports. And I can go on and on of all the things that happened. When President Reagan got shot, the Secret Service kind of changed everything they did, and they didn't let the president interact with people like that anymore. So if you look at history, then what it shows us is if something happens, we protect what we love and protect what we need, and we don't go on a knee-jerk reaction and just go off of pure emotion, right? Except for this. It seems that everybody wants to make this a political matter. Everybody wants to throw their 2 cents in and say how, we should do this, that, and the other. The problem is a lot of those people, like the vast majority of those people, don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, let's just be honest, right? Like, have you ever believed a politician, like, fucking ever? No matter what side they're on, like, they never know what the fuck they're talking about. I mean, our president just went on TV and said that a 9mm will blow your lung out of your body. That is just absurd. I mean, it's simply absurd. And it blows my mind to even think of, the fact that he said it, and two, who the fuck told him that? Like, so right now they're saying, hey, people are saying, let's take all the guns away. The other people are saying, let's arm the teachers, right? I'm obviously against taking guns away, completely 100% against that. But I'm not 100% fully for arming teachers. Let me explain why. Okay. One, first and foremost, I think we need to secure the schools better, right? That's what we need to start with, right? Let's start with that, okay? Let's just take a few examples, right? Let's go way back in history. The city of Troy. What did they say about the city of Troy? The city of Troy had never been penetrated. Their walls had never been penetrated in a whole bunch of years. How did they get defeated? Somebody went inside their walls and then defeated them from the inside out, right? So if we look at Vatican City, if you've ever been there, ever seen pictures, the walls of the Vatican City are just huge, right? Nobody's going to breach those. They have to go from the inside out, right? The Great Wall of China. Did the Mongols ever take over China? Pop quiz? No, they did not. Why? Because they built a huge fucking wall. So it just goes to prove that if you harden the outside, then people won't be able to get in. So how do we harden the outside of a school, right? Well, as in my previous videos, a lot of schools now have a laminate glass on their doors and on their windows, right? Obviously not all schools, it's, budget, this, that, and the other. But that's one thing we could do, right? Why is that? Because this laminate glass they put on the schools are even better than like a car windshield. They're a lot harder to get in. You can't just hit it and it'll crumble. You have to actually have certain tools to get in or take a lot of time to get in, okay? So that's one way. If we look at the last school shooting in Texas, the teacher, and there's evidence that says she left the door open. Her lawyer is now coming out and said she didn't do that, but the rest of the world's calling bullshit, so I'm gonna stick with the rest of the world. The school goes on lockdown. This teacher realizes she has her phone out in her car. She runs up to the car. She leaves the door wide open. She propped it open with a rock and then runs in and leaves the door open. Obviously, if you leave the fucking door open to your castle, people can get in, right? I mean, fuck. So, that's a very simple way to fix it, right? There are a lot of videos and a lot of devices out now that when teachers close their door and lock their door from the inside, there's some devices that, the little, the thing at the top of the door, like a little triangle arm thing that pushes the door open and eases it closed. There's things now that you can put over that keep the door from coming open. There's a device where they put like a chair in the handle where the handle can't be moved.
Mount chair, or you can set a potted plant, whatever you want to do for that chair, but it's already ready. Because all I have to do is take it, put the back leg in there, and twist just like that. And this thing is solid. It's not going anywhere.
And just tons of people out there doing good work, thinking of ways to secure the school, right? So, let's start with, hardening the outer perimeter, making sure the doors are locked. Now, what could have prevented this teacher from going outside to get her phone? I don't know. I mean, she was a fucking idiot. But maybe if when you put the school in lockdown, you hit a button, boom, all doors locked down, everything, which they already should be, then if a door opens, maybe an alarm goes to like the front desk, and a camera shows what's going on right at that door. So the front desk people could be like, either there's somebody trying to come in, or there's a dumb fuck teacher trying to get out, what have you, right? That's something very simple. Alarms on doors have been around for a really long time. Camera systems have been around for a really long time. That shit's fairly cheap and easy to put in, and you can put that on all the schools pretty easily. This guy in Texas walked by the school and started shooting into the school before he saw the open door. So again, that glass, it's hard just to say, hey, let's throw bulletproof glass in there because it's super expensive. I mean, if we had all the money in the world, which we kind of do, if we could give it to other motherfuckers and just, give it to ourselves, I'm pretty sure that you could do something like that, right? Make the windows a certain way to where somebody can't just climb in there very easily. But also if there happens to be a fire that you could get out easily. There's ways to do that. Same with the doors, right? So the schools that when I was a police officer, the schools that I would go to, we had keys to the doors. We knew where the spare keys were. We knew how to get in different ways in case there was a fire. If you don't know, most schools now are going to, I can't remember the cool guy word for it, but they go to a lockdown procedure. Most schools nowadays are essentially fireproof. The way that they're built, the stuff they spray on everything, fires don't really burn schools down. So what they do is they say, we have one alarm, it goes off, what do? We barricade ourselves in the room. We have an area to where if there is a window in the door, you cannot peer in and see any kids. We put stuff in front of us, blah, blah, blah. And that's how they're preventing things, right? It's a plan, and a plan is better than no plan. I don't think it's the most effective plan, but it's a plan, right? It's a very defensive plan and not a very offensive plan, which kind of shitty, but it is what it is, right? Part of my job when I was contracting was we would go and look at structures, not just me, but a lot of people. We'd go look at structures and look at how to defeat those structures. If I was a bad guy, how would I get in, right? And we would go through the whole gamut of everything and then write it up and present it to certain people and say, hey, this is how we think, a bad guy would get in, and this is how we think you could defeat that. And schools can do the same thing. They just don't. I don't know why. They just don't. I think it's that old, the mentality of this will never happen to me. Unfortunately, that shit can happen anywhere. So if we just harden the outside, I think that in itself is a very good thing. If we have camera systems everywhere, and if we have camera systems everywhere and cops that actually know and give a fuck at what they're doing, because unfortunately there are a lot of cops that have that same it's never going to happen to me mentality. And when it's time to do active shooter training, when it's time to do this, when it's time to do that, they just they go through the steps and they click the check mark and yes, I did it. And then that's it, man. Instead of saying, hey, what are we missing? Could I carry this in my fucking patrol vehicle? Could I carry a spare sledgehammer or a Halligan tool or anything like that that would help me if I actually needed to get in here and do something, right? And it's a sad thing, but most cops just have that mentality. Or they have the mentality of, well, if the fucking department or the office wanted me to have it, they would issue it to me. And again, it's one of those things that, like, sometimes, man, you got to go buy your own shit. Sometimes you got to do what needs to be done in order to protect or save somebody's life, right? There's another hot topic button going around today that the Supreme Court has ruled that cops are not actually mandated to protect anybody. And that's absolutely true. But why? One, because the cops are a reactive force. 99.999% of the time, they get called after the fact. Okay? It's really hard to protect that person when you're getting called after the fact. Okay? Another thing is cops are ill-trained and ill-prepared. And that's just a fact of the matter. And we've known this forever, and nobody gives a shit. All right? If they gave a shit, cops would be way better prepared and way better trained, right? A lot of cops say, well, I'll just, I'll call SWAT. Well, one, it takes a while for SWAT to spin up. Number two, SWAT is a very, very reactive force as well. They are not, contrary to popular belief, they are not the door kickers that you see on TV, and they're not the door kickers that you may think like Delta Force is. It's just the case. They're more of a, hey, there's a barricaded guy, let's stay back, wait, throw a whole bunch of tear gas inside there for 17 hours, and then when the guy's like half dead from tear gas, then we'll go in. And it's just the truth. So harden the outside of the structure. Let's get some cameras. Let's get some door alarms. Let's get, even those really loud door alarms where if you do come in from the outside, it sets off the door alarm and shit starts screeching and stuff, right? That lets everybody know, hey, somebody came in that wasn't supposed to, and they came in from this area, okay? Maybe they have a safe room to where all that camera system is, to where the principal, the assistant principal, or whoever's in charge at that moment can run back into that room. They can monitor everything. They have a line to 911. They can open mic it. They can talk and say, hey, they are entering from the northeast section. They are coming down, to room whatever, and give exact descriptions of what exactly is going on. One guy, two guys, they're wearing this, the whole gamut, right? Be able to harden the children's doors more and better. If there's a device that we can buy to lock the doors and make sure they don't open, let's do that. Ensure teachers lock the fucking doors, like first and foremost, right? Like, holy shit. Okay, then what do we have after all that? Let's say we did all that. Then what do we have? My personal opinion, and this is just me, you put a good, well-trained, that's the key, well-trained officer, one or two of those guys, and a fucking dog. And I think you're good to go, right? You get two cops and a dog, I think you're awesome. And they say, well, why a dog? Wouldn't the dog bite kids? You can go back and look at what we'll say a Malinois, because that's the most popular dog cops have. You can go look at who they bite overseas and here. You can look at everything that's going on with dogs. Those dogs, I don't know what's in their brain, but they are smart enough to differentiate between a bad guy, an adult bad guy, and a child that's in the corner crying, cowering. They won't bite that kid. They won't. They'll bite dead people. Like if you're going into a house in Afghanistan, they'll go in and bite dead people, but they won't bite kids. They'll go sniff them and stare at them, and something in their head says, oh, that's a kid, leave it alone. And then they go find bad guy. It's fucking true, man. Don't ask me how. Those things I have one. They're pretty amazing. But what can that dog do, right? If you are, let's just say a bad guy's down the corridor, right? You send that dog down there, that dog's gonna find that guy. That dog is going to find that dude. And plus, if you have that dog in that school every single day, that dog's going to know all the teachers. That dog's going to know the kids. He's going to know what the kids smell like. He's going to know a lot more than you think he knows. You go in and you introduce that dog to the kids, you know, show them some tricks and stuff, and show the kids, hey, this dog can bite too, and he can smell drugs, there's a whole bunch of shit the dog can do, right? Without going down that rabbit hole for an hour. The dog can do amazing things. And if you have two handlers to where both can control the dog, and two guys that are very, very, very well trained, not this fucking bullshit, I'm overweight and I'm almost retired, so I'm gonna go fucking, you know, be a school resource officer, or hey, I can't go on patrol anymore because I can't run a quarter mile without dying, I'm gonna go be a school resource officer. None of that shit. Like a fucking well-trained person. Well-trained. And you know what, depending on what school you go to, you know, depending on what's going on with that, you know, their uniform can be whatever. It can be a soft uniform to where they're wearing regular normal clothes and maybe they have, you know, concealed stuff. Or maybe they're, you know, more overt and they're wearing hard plates and stuff. That's up to you guys. A couple officers and a dog or two dogs, I think, depending on how big the school is, I think would be amazing, and that would detour and stop most things, right? Let's jump onto the subject of teachers with guns, right? Because, man, you got this side over here saying we should just arm every teacher with whatever the gun they want and let them smoke everybody. And this side over here saying I don't want my kids in a classroom with teachers with guns. And then everybody in between. And I'm kind of in the middle a little bit. I'm going to tell you why. Let's go over some pros and cons, right? Pro, they're going to be rapid response. They're going to be on scene. They're going to be right there. Okay? They are going to be able to actively protect the students and actively engage the shooter, right? Almost immediately. Okay? If the shooters know the teacher are armed, then it becomes a hard target as opposed to a soft target, right? Let's go over some cons. As we know, most, not all, but most teachers, right, are very left-leaning. Okay, and it's not a knock on teachers, it's just kind of a fact, right? Therefore, their training and knowledge on firearms and gunfighting is probably very minimal, okay? So we cannot say that they would be well trained enough to do what needed to be done, right? We cannot say that they'd be well trained enough to shoot the shooter as opposed to a child, okay? On top of that, if cops come in and they're engaging somebody and they see two people with guns pointing at each other, teacher and bad guy, how do they know who's who? They don't. They see two people in civilian clothes, they see two people with guns, and they see dead people, right? So I think the thought process has to go much further down the rabbit hole before we're able to do this, right? Personally, I know a couple teachers in the college level that do, like professors, that do carry guns. Luckily for them, they've never had to use those guns. They've never, been in that situation, right? But in order for me, and this is just me personally, to feel comfortable that the teachers that are teaching my children, right, are able to do the job that needs to be done, I think there's some steps that need to be made, right? Obviously, they have to be volunteers. You can't make somebody have a gun, right? They'd be volunteers. They need to have training. And I'm not just talking flat range, bullseye shooting. No, we need fucking simunition. We need like active shooter, real, no shit training, right? We need these dudes to go force on force with other people. That way they know what their capabilities are, and more importantly, what their capabilities are not. What they can and cannot do, when they're going to be scared and when they're not going to be scared, right? The more you do that, the more you get involved in that. Let's say you do that every, they have teacher work days like what, every other month or some shit. Let's say they do that like every other month, right? These teachers go, and all the ones that are armed, they go and they do a teacher work day, and they go to an abandoned building it's set up by cops or whoever, and they do force on force training. That would be amazing. And I guess those teachers, their knowledge of firearms, the way they handle firearms, their shooting ability, and their demeanor just in general would just skyrocket, right? If you think the dudes that train the most are the most effective in battle, why? Because they train the most. Not because of how much weight they can lift or how fast they can run or the cool guy equipment they have. No, it's because they train the most, because they are so proficient in what they do, all right? That's what we need, okay? I don't need some teacher that's doing this, just popping off shots with their head behind the desk. I don't want that shit, all right? Then we go on to things like medical, right? I've always said, and I've always been told, if you are going to be able to take a life, you need to be able to save a life, okay? So they would need medical training. Let's just say a shooter walked by their classroom and pops a couple shots and hit 2 kids. They were unable to engage, but now they're able to, you know, secure the door, whatever, and now they have to provide medical attention to their students. They need to know how to do that, right? So same time you do sims, you know, maybe the morning or afternoon or whatever, you do medical training, and no bullshit medical training. You know, you do, it would be, I don't know if you'd be able to do it, but you would do live tissue medical training. And what do I mean by live tissue training? You could do on pigs, goats, things like that. They do it all the time, folks. You may not know about it, but people, certain people, they do it. And for me, they would have to be able to pass a simunitions course that would incorporate medical training and everything. And what do I mean by that? They would have to show proficiency in being able to not only secure their students, but engage the target, secure the area, provide medical training for people that needed it, kind of the whole gamut of everything, you know? I think if we could incorporate something like that, I would be fully on board with giving teachers guns. Right now, I think we are at its infancy, and the only, I've seen one school in Texas, I want to say it was, either Texas or Florida, I can't remember, that incorporated some of this, and they took their teachers out to the range, blah, 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 right? But I think the only, you know, they say they go out to the range like once every 6 months or, you know, something like that. To me, that's not enough. Cops do the same shit. They go to the range once every 6 months, they shoot their little fucking bullshit qualification, and they're like, oh, I'm a badass. No, that's not the case. You need to continuously shoot all the fucking time. You know, teachers, we have, you know, cert guns, like laser guns, laser training guns, so teachers can use those in their classroom. You know, if you stay late 1 hour maybe after school, or come in before school for an hour, you know, even like once a month, and you do a little training, a little hip pocket training, just the teachers themselves. Hey, well, let's go through a scenario real quick, right? Get everybody involved. You know, I think the more stuff we do like that, I think the more that everybody will be comfortable with it. Now, you're always going to have those outliers of like, fuck guns, they're horrible, blah, 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 right? I don't care about those people because they're stupid. You know, if you ever want to know why we have guns, just read a fucking history book. You know, those same people that are saying they don't want us to have guns are praising the people of Ukraine because they do have guns. See what I'm fucking saying? Like, yeah. So anyways, I kind of down that road. If you want teachers to have guns, I'm okay with it as long as they get the proper training. Because, you know, whilst I want everybody to be able to defend and protect themselves, there's a lot of people out there that, while they have good intentions, are not the best, or not as good as they think they are, right? And you can find that throughout this country. There's tons of dudes that have never been to any shooting courses, that have never done shit, that stand on a flat range, and because they can shoot a target at 10 yards, you know, taking all the time in the world, you know, they really think that they are something special. And they're not. But anyway, just to wrap it all up, I really think we should start at the school, harden the outside, cameras, door alarms, more bulletproof, if not bulletproof, bullet resistant, and laminate glass throughout. Camera systems, better ways to contact the police. If the police in the area train harder and better for things like this, and then come down to the teachers, being able to secure their rooms, things like that. And I don't know if they can right now. I'm not 100% sure if, teachers can always, if they can't carry guns right now, they can always carry like pepper spray or something. And I know it's like, it's non-lethal and it's not going to do everything you want to do, but it might be able to take their focus off of that child for 10 seconds while you spray them in the face and they're going, oh shit. And then maybe you can hit them over the head with a fucking chair or some shit. I don't know. Anything that you can do to get their mind off killing that kid is cool with me, right? You got to think, the people that are doing this are not trained. They're not the proficient gun handlers we TV would let you think they are. No, they're walking through and just popping rounds off. If you have just a little bit of tactics knowledge and you know how to handle a gun, you will be able to defeat these people easily. All right. So anyway, that's what I think. Tell me what you think down in the comments down there. And if you have any ideas for any other videos, anything you want to know, hit me up. I'm pretty good at answering questions and anything like that. So let me know. And remember, always ask yourself, are you an asset or a liability?